So, at the risk of sounding trite on such a day as today, and despite of the heavily commercialized and commodified celebration of Christ's birth, I'd like to bring forward the ordinary joys of offering and receiving. These joys the Buddha highly recommended. In fact, the acts of offering and receiving are the very ground out of which the Brahmaviharas, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity arise. Many of us are familiar and comfortable with the act of offering. Being on the giving end of a gift feels good. We feel good about ourselves. The receiver feels good about us and hopefully about the gift. Being on the giving end gives us a little bit of power, a little bit of an advantage, the upper hand potentially. Not all acts of, not that acts of altruism don't exist, don't happen, but more often our egos get caught up in giving too. It's not our fault, it's the habit of the mind, of our minds, to get attached to what it does and what it finds value in for its existence. And we all have, at some point, had the experience of giving a gift that wasn't appreciated or liked. And oh, how the heart sinks on those occasions. Parents, I think, often have a lot of experience of giving gifts that fall flat on children, right? Some they like, some they don't care about. And yet these occasions are great training ground for letting go of the self a little bit more, for letting go of our need to be seen and appreciated, and instead just to train the heart in the act of giving without expecting anything in return. This kind of practice asks us to focus our attention on intention, to rest our heart on our intention, right? That's what I like to say, to rest your heart on your intention, not on the other person's reaction, because you can't control that. But perhaps the hardest lesson of them all to learn is receiving. And that's where I'd like to focus today, on receiving. When Uncle Chuck, my spiritual father and Catholic priest, was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, he said to me, "Susan, I've always been the one others sought out for support and relied on. And now I'm the one in need. And receiving is one of my deepest lessons in life." He finally learned how to receive when he got ill. He allowed himself to receive. And he appreciated that. And I think many of us can relate to this. It is easier to be on the giving end often, but much harder to receive well, to receive graciously and appreciatively, to feel worthy of the thoughtfulness. Since I was a kid, I struggled with receiving gifts, especially at this time of year. I mean, it made no sense to my 4-year-old brain that I would receive gifts for someone else's birthday. Christ's, that is, really. When so many children my age were starving and in need of basic supplies for living. Receiving a gift was often tinged with a bit of shame, a bit of embarrassment, even though my parents were so happy to give to us. Yes, learning to receive graciously is an art, and an art in our meditation practice as well, right? We learn to settle back and receive the breath and not control it. We learn to notice the good feelings, the quiet good feelings that appear, and learn how to make much of them. It's a practice. A friend of mine told me a story that I've always, always loved. She's a bigger than life character and has big and wild hair. And as a child, her mother would try to wrangle her hair into some kind of modest shape for church. And my friend hated all the fussing, and she hated that people fussed over how she looked. So her mother would chide her for not receiving compliments graciously. She'd say, Janice, when someone gives you a compliment, just say thank you and shut up. Well, didn't that come back to bite her? Because one morning in walks my friend's aunt, who proceeds to gush over Janice's hair. And without missing a beat, Janice looked at her mother, wryly, smiling, and then turned to her aunt and said, thank you, and shut up. And both of the women they were so upset, they were aghast, but they also started cracking up because it was like, it is exactly what happened, right? It was hysterical. So with respect to compliments, to what degree can we allow ourselves to fully feel someone's appreciation and admiration of us? These lovely little interactions uplift the heart with joy, a joy that can be seen and felt, and the joy of feeling connected in a moment, the joy of unsolicited validation and confirmation of a job well done, the congruence of the external and the internal worlds feels good, pleasant, joyful. It gladdens us, right? We stand and sit a little taller, perhaps feel a little more esteem for the goodness inside. Yet many of us are uncomfortable receiving a compliment. We're less inclined to linger long enough in a pause between the speaker and the listener to let the heartfelt words land inside, to let it register such that the whole of the organism can feel and receive the benefit, the uplift, the joy of having been seen and appreciated. No, actually, it's more the norm to minimize, more the norm to deflect, dismiss, or redirect a compliment as a way of managing our own discomfort with what is being felt. It's more the norm to only let the good feeling in small doses because that's all we can handle, or that's all we feel we deserve. Or simply don't let it in at all. Let the words bounce off our armor, because sometimes hearing ourselves, or sometimes we hear ourselves say thank you so fast as a reflexive knee jerk. Sometimes compliments can only be heard or believed when they're offered by a select few, or they're met with and fraught with an inner dialogue that is running counter to it. And certainly in the speed of our day, it is not our habit to linger anywhere very long. And rarely do we pause long enough to fully receive a moment, let alone a compliment. To notice and listen, to feel and breathe and know what is happening as it is happening. To know, to really know that we are being seen and appreciated in that moment. Can you imagine what that would be like to fully receive a compliment? To breathe in and with and through the compliment such that it washes through the whole of the organism and it receives the message, a flash of joy that is being felt? How might this uplift the system, put a little wind under the wings? What is interesting about receiving a compliment, though, or any gift, well, is that it offers back a gift to the giver, because they too are being seen. Their gesture or words of kindness were important enough to be paid attention to. Don't we all want that? This is the giving cycle. Giving and receiving, offering and receiving. Both sides of the equation matter. This is the real currency that runs the show out there and in here. The heart uplifting practice of giving and receiving. So I ask, what were you taught about receiving compliments by your elders growing up? How are you now with receiving compliments? Right now, just pause and reflect as I just meander with a few questions for you. How good are you at noticing when someone pays you a compliment? Do you let the person and their words register? Do you say thanks reflexively before the other person has finished speaking? What feelings wash over you as you let their sentiment in? Embarrassment, doubt, denial, discomfort, disbelief? Is there any uplift, brightness, sharpness, a clarity, a sense of connection or esteem? Perhaps a whole mix of these. And how do you respond internally and externally? No right answers. Just get to know what happens inside when someone gives you a compliment. And then practice receiving compliments well. It's a gift to you and a gift to the other person. So today, maybe even over the next few days, let yourself practice playing around with receiving compliments. And remember, it's generally easier to be on the giving end. It's harder to receive well and to feel worthy. But in so doing, our joy, our appreciation can bring the other person joy. This is how we sow the seeds of joy in here and out there, naturally. Let's practice the art of receiving compliments well as the gifts that they are. We all secretly want to be seen and appreciated for who we are and what we do. So notice, feel, breathe. Let the compliment land, and then, only then, say thank you and shh. I'm not going to say the other. Shh, though. No buts, no qualifiers, just thank you. Thank you for that. Practice receiving. It's for your welfare and for the welfare of all of those you encounter. So, thank you for your kind attention. All right. All right. And now, if you will, kindly turn your attention to the body and see how it feels right now. Open it up. Let's take some nice, fuller than usual inhalations, nice, fuller than usual exhalations as we move the body. Soften it up, create some space, tenderize. Take your time, settle in, feel into a posture that feels relatively comfortable and you can stay in for a little while. Gently close the eyes if that feels helpful. Let go of the outside world and come on inside and feel what breathing feels like inside. Opening up on the inhalation and softening, settling all the way down through the torso into the legs onto the ground. Keep letting go of the work, letting go of the tension. And imagine that you're doing something you really enjoy doing. Imagine that you're sitting with a bunch of people you're kind of happy to hang out with for a little while and warm it up inside, however you can. And whatever busyness remains in the mind, just let it be like clouds in the sky. And meanwhile, there's this sitting here, as comfortable as possible in a body breathing. And for the next little while, let's keep settling back into a receptive mode of receiving the breath. We don't need to work to breathe. The body knows how to breathe all on its own. So keep noticing when you're kind of pushing or striving or you've wandered away, and keep gently settling back into that receptive posture. receiving the breath, softening and receiving the breath. No need to do anything. Now, if you will, bring attention to the whole of the body sitting here. Feel how it is and its experience of comfort and ease. And then place attention inside the body in the heart area. And receive the breath there. And now also receive these words. Thank you for your practice. Really. Thank you for your practice. Breathe with and in and through the sentiment of thank you. Each and all so worthy of compliment. Let whatever feelings are there arise and pass through. We are learning to receive.